Passion projects, constructivist alternative learning strategies. Involve me, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. Students learn when they are involved. This presentation will showcase how alternative pedagogical approaches in an online curriculum will help students to be excited about their education and feel an integral part of the learning sphere. I will use a case study based on a real situation that my son experienced when he signed up for a unique course named Passion Projects. The course ended up being a team project between two classes, one in Richland, the other in the Ukraine. The course, Teaching and Learning in Online Education, would showcase various learning theories for the online classroom, and the unique project that my son was a part of while in middle school helped to inspire this presentation on unique approaches to a K-12 online curriculum. In addition, this presentation aims to show best practices utilizing a constructivist approach in a K-12 online setting. These practices can prove effective and life-changing for students. To be more specific, implementing a class that could have the same title, Passion Projects, where students come up with their own project based on learning objectives for a given subject and age, could fit well into the scope of an online K-12 sphere. These projects could be within the realm of music or any subject. Students take learning objectives and with the teacher's guidance come up with their way of meeting the objective. Students could choose to work in a team or by themselves. I also want to prove not only how a constructivist approach supports these types of alternative learning choices, but how the online collaborative learning theory plays an integral part in making these pedagogical goals a reality. Tony Bates states in his blog that constructivists see students wanting to create meaning in order to make sense of their situation, circumstances in terms of past experiences they've had, in terms of their present state. They want to create order where there wasn't any. The means by which this is done are complex and multifaceted, from personal reflection seeking new information to testing ideas through social contact with others. Nuclear Legacy. The book Nuclear Legacy: Students of Two Atomic Cities showcases two classes of students. One class came from Richland, Washington, where the Manhattan Project took place during World War II, and the other was from students who came from the deserted town of Chernobyl, the Ukraine. The project started out as a way for students to find out about each other, different cultures and customs. In the end, the project turned into lifelong relationships and a bond between students of two very different countries. Alan Walters, as cited in McQuarrie and Gavrish, 2000, professor and head, Department of Nuclear Engineering at Texas A&M University, wrote in the foreword that the young people have learned through this project that real education is far more than reading books and watching video clips. Allowing students choices. Proposing constructivist activities in a K-12 online environment. Distance technologies may provide more effective instructional opportunities than their face-to-face equivalents when utilizing educational practices that speak to the cognitive and social procedures of information development. It's all about allowing choice in students' lives. Many families choose online learning for this very reason. It allows flexibility in a young person's schedule. One story of this type of flexibility is Hanami Fromm from Portland, Oregon. Hanami is a violin prodigy who performed at a Young Artist Debut competition sponsored by Metro Arts. Her virtual online class allows her to practice 5 to 6 hours a day. She is just one of many students whose families choose this type of education for various reasons. This is the kind of self-motivated student who would benefit greatly from constructivist activities in online learning. Findings from a study of online K-12 students showed that the most common student response to the question of benefits of a virtual school course was their appreciation of the autonomy and freedom. Although most students identified the teacher as the ultimate source of information, many students enjoyed the opportunity to work on their own and to figure out things for themselves without having to wait for the teacher to tell them what to do. Constructivism. The key idea is that students actively construct their own knowledge. The mind of the student mediates input from the outside world to determine what the student will learn. Learning is active mental work, not passive reception of teaching. According to Harrison, 2012, one of the key aspects of constructivism is the emphasis on teamwork. Students work together to finish an assignment or project. David Johansen, as cited by Harrison, 2012, adds a bit more detail to what a constructivist instructional classroom would like. He emphasizes 1. Providing multiple examples of real situations. 2. Giving examples of the real world and its intricacies. 3. Giving students valid assignments that correlate to actual occurrences that one might find in the world. 4. Allow for meaningful collaborative construction of knowledge through social negotiation rather than allowing for negative interactions or competitiveness. The book Nuclear Legacy, Students of Two Atomic Cities, shows a successful student project that pictures how constructivism can work in K-12 classrooms. Constructivist learning networks, the internet, learning circles. Constructivism is the pedagogical theory behind online learning networks, Harrison, 2012. Online learning networks were formed as early as the 1980s and 90s. Margaret Reel created what is known as the learning circles. These were student-centered assignments or collaborations between classrooms. Nuclear Legacy, Students of Two Atomic Cities, is a great example of the learning circles concepts. Two classes from different countries worked together to create a book on students' experiences. Web 2.0 tools, as described by Leah McLaughlin, 2010, are exciting that can be used in collaborative learning. Tools such as blogs, podcasting, RSS, Prezi, SlideShare, Animoto.com, Edmodo, Wikispace, and Google Docs are accessible to anyone, anywhere. Web 2.0 is about innovative new ways of invention, teamwork, editing, and allocating user-generated subject matter online. Ease of use is also fundamental to why Web 2.0 tools are instrumental to online collaboration. There is no need to download a program. Teachers and students can become proficient in using these tools in a matter of minutes. Classroom by Google. For traditional and online students, Classroom by Google offers a way for teachers and students to connect to a specific class. Teachers can input assignments and other classroom details so teachers and students can achieve more in the privacy of their own online community. This private network is important for the security and safety of K-12 students. Google Expeditions Pioneer Program. Google offers adventures as a virtual field trip for classrooms. These unique expeditions include virtual reality landscapes and are led by a guide or teacher. Google has interested parties fill out a form where they contact and set up these possibilities. Google provides these free of charge. These trips are more often than not used for traditional classrooms, but adaptations can be made for online distance education students. Teachers help to guide their students and point out important landmark scenes while referring to notes provided by Google. Notes can be changed to fit individual classroom needs. Skype Classroom. Skype in the classroom allows classrooms to collaborate with other professionals in schools from around the world. It can also work for distance education students, although traditional brick-and-mortar classrooms can utilize these tools. There are interesting lessons from around the world that teachers can access in classrooms looking for partnerships with other classrooms. Online Collaborative Learning Theory, OCL, a theoretical framework to help lead and steer learning in this knowledge age. Passion projects, why it worked. It was student-led, it was built on students' prior knowledge, and it had student buy-in. Students had the opportunity to tap into their personal lives and towns' histories. According to McQuarrie, 2000, a study done in 1984 of 900 American children ages 10 to 15 and 300 Soviet children found that both sets were very worried about the possibility of some kind of nuclear engagement. Both groups were quite pessimistic about survival if nuclear war occurred. American children were especially negative about the ability to avoid a nuclear war. This project helped children to vocalize their fears and thoughts and allowed them to create something meaningful that might serve as a positive addition to disarmament and avoidance of nuclear warfare. How to implement an online K-12 education. Fundamental design elements include student exploration, students' objectives and learning goals, student self-reflection. Collaborative design elements, student collaboration, student varied outlooks, and others. Assessment, self-assessment, team assessment, facilitator assessment, and you can see this snapshot of constructivism and e-learning design that showcases elements of design and assessment. The student-centered simulation for planning online assessments projects is to inspire students to build new understanding and know-how. The design of each assessment begins with presenting a real-life scenario. In the case of the project Nuclear Legacy, we see such an example. Students are urged to cultivate their own goals for solving a learning solution. At this time, the design strategy is to encourage exploration and learners' control of the learning. Students' prior knowledge comes into play as they build their own learning situations. 3 types of assessments may be designed into any given activity project. Self-assessment, student evaluates his or her own work. Team assessment, students evaluate each other's projects. And facilitator assessment, the facilitator or teacher assesses the individual and team projects. The facilitator instructor takes into consideration students' thoughts. The facilitator instructor becomes a sage on the side and takes on the role of trainer, mentor, rather than creating a teacher-centered environment. The facilitator instructor gives constructive feedback and helps guide and direct students in the correct learning paths. The facilitator helps provide the proper resources to students. Conclusion. Allow for student choice, constructivist e-learning classroom. Create online curriculum that allows for students to choose their own learning path. Example, Nuclear Legacy, students of 2 atomic cities. Use OCL tools. Allow for collaborative tools such as Skype in the classroom, Google Classroom. Open up channels for dialogues with other classrooms and students. Student buy-in is critical. Learning must be meaningful to make a difference. Create a passions project online course. Constructivist learning theory means learning by doing. Provide activities that mirror real-life experiences. Use Web 2.0 tools such as Wikispace, Edmodo, Animoto, Google Docs to allow for collaborative projects. Create an OCL space with Google Classroom or Edmodo, which allows for a secure, interactive environment. Allow students opportunities to open up their learning by having their own passion projects curricula within a given subject area. Finally, consider that students or people are shaped and formed by the tools and instruments they use. Bruner, as cited by Harrison, 2012. Provide rich learning environments using tools such as the Expeditions Pioneer Program. To teach means to change a life. Lives were changed by the Nuclear Legacy Project. My son was one of those lives.